Look where I am. I am in the administration building at Unity Village. Here I am assured of a good internet signal. So this is excellent. And plus the energy here is amazing. Of course, many of you know that this week starts my big 4-day Holy You retreat. And I'm so thrilled because they turned on the fountains outside a week ahead of time just for everybody who's going to be here. And it's just beautiful. But I have had the pleasure of being here for a little over a week now. And probably most of you also know that I've been recording Messages of Hope as an audiobook, and we got finished so quickly and so easily, and they were so pleased with it that we just are almost finished recording Wolf's Message as a Unity Books audiobook to be available on Audible. And it's just been such an honor and a pleasure to read those books again and to read them out loud and to relive all of those moments and the magic. And that's part of what tonight is about, sharing the magic from the spirit world, sharing our awareness that we are part of that spirit world right now, that we don't just enter the spirit world when we pass, that we can interact with anybody who is across the veil. Now, does that mean we always have a beautiful, perfect connection when they respond to us? I wish. It doesn't always happen like that. But we'll be discussing some wonderful tools this evening for how all of us can increase our connection across the veil. So is this mentoring and mediumship? Some of it, yes, absolutely. If you're a mediumship medium in training or a working medium now, I hope that some of the things that we discuss will help you. But otherwise, this helps all of us strengthening our connection with our own higher self, which is wonderful. Anytime we do that, we come to know who we are, why we're here. It's all about love. So tonight, as any night that we gather like this, is a love fest. And I want to tell you that Bev is flying out tomorrow here to Kansas City, to Unity Village, very early. And we were talking earlier how on the East Coast, this webinar tonight will go till 10 p.m. And she said, just like me, we have a hard time coming down after these webinars because the energy is so high. The love is so wonderful, and I feel it from all of you. So pay attention if you have trouble sleeping. That's love. Love is the highest vibration. It's just vibrating like crazy here tonight. So to help us come into resonance and to share the same goal, I always like to start with an invocation. And let's all just join our hearts, please. You can close your eyes if you'd like, and just take a nice, deep, relaxing breath. If you exhale longer than you inhale, that triggers the relaxation response in your body. So let's do it again. Perhaps breathe in to the count of 4 and out to 6. That always feels so good. And now an awareness that you are a being of light, an orb in your own right. Tune into the center of you, the center of your sphere as an energetic being and as a human. It's the same center in physical form. And feel the light that's always there burning, and just turn up that light. From the higher perspective, the souls who see you now, watch from their perspective as your light grows brighter and brighter and brighter. Excellent. Imagine all of us doing this right now. Just this small number reaches a tipping point that helps our whole earth to glow brighter. So with that intention that our meeting here tonight helps not only our own selves to join in alignment with our higher self, but to spread ripples out to all those around us so that we all may burn a bit brighter. We give gratitude for following the nudge to be here. May each of us hear something this evening that helps us in our journey, brings peace, happiness, more joy into our lives, and eases any of our challenges. With gratitude and love, we affirm it is so. Nice. All right. So the way tonight will go, if any of you are new to this, is I just have, how many? I usually have about 18 pages. Well, 25. 25 pages of notes from the spirit world and from my experiences in interacting with the spirit world since the last webinar. And that's how it goes. I'll finish tonight and I'll say, well, what are we going to talk about next month? And I never need to worry because the spirit world is awesome. I have to tell you before I get going that reading Wolf's message this morning was the most magical experience. I awoke about 2:30 and after tossing and turning for a while, finally said, okay, I'll get up. Usually there's a reason I can't sleep. And I was guided to read certain books that are in the living room of our bus. And I was reading all these things, all these analogies and metaphors and good stuff. And darned if so much of that didn't come up today again in Wolf's message. Oh, really? So the team is so present. They want me to get straight into this amazing download that I got. And I have to tell you how the setup is. We're in the tower at Unity. It's this beautiful structure that you can see for miles around. It really marks this campus. We're up on the 6th floor. I'm in a little recording studio all by myself, soundproofed, with all the gear in there. And I have the headphones and the microphone. And there are 2 technicians across the hall in their own booth, watching the recordings and the levels, reading along with me to make sure I don't flub anything. And we can talk back and forth. And today was just a mess from my perspective because I would read a little bit and then all of a sudden something that I just read last night or something that I got in meditation this morning or yesterday, the downloads have been amazing, would come up and I'd say, oh my God, I mean, right in the middle of reading the book. And of course, they're going to have to edit that out. And then I would have to stop and in my excitement, share it with the technicians, hoping that they cared, because it was just beautiful. But the teaching, yes, Sanaya is so present, my team. The teaching was, we can read the same information that we've heard in the past. Wolf's message, of course, I wrote it several years ago, but I haven't read it since then. And so I had forgotten so much. And they were showing me that this is why we use the metaphor of the spiral, which is so prominent in Wolf's book. The spiral as a symbol for the ongoing evolution of your soul. Ever onward, ever upward. But just like a circle that has an infinite number of points on that circle, we never really hit all the points in our journey that are possible. We never achieve the full potential because we as souls arise from a field of pure potential. So just because you made one spiral on your soul's growth during this journey of your lifetime in physical form, we don't know how many times you'll spiral greater and greater, higher and higher. You miss some of these growth opportunities, but a spiral means certain patterns in your life will repeat themselves. Don't we all know that? Good or bad. And so certain key images that came up in Wolf's book came up in my reading last night, and there they are today. Certain characters showed up in my characters. How about Archangel Michael? No disrespect meant. Showed up this morning out of the blue. I said, anybody want to visit me? And here's Archangel Michael. So special. I had not had a visit from him in years. And he only had one message: celebrate the magic in the clouds. Okay. So I'm reading Wolf's message out loud for the audiobook, and the character Velvet in the book says, oh, you're going to Banff, Canada? That's where Archangel Michael hangs out. I had completely forgotten Archangel Michael was even in Wolf's message. And here he comes. And of course, I read on and go to Banff, and that's when this beautiful cloud image with wings showed up at a very timely moment. So clearly, the higher beings knew that that was going to come out in the book today. But the message was that these certain things in our lives will repeat themselves, but you'll have a different viewpoint of them as your growth spirals higher and higher, as your vibration rises. What does that mean? As you learn more about why we're here, to love unconditionally everyone as a soul. Does that mean we accept unacceptable behavior? Not at all. But we can still see the soul beneath that behavior and send them love. So The more loving you become, the finer your vibration. If you're on this spiritual path, you may understand what I mean by going through periods of ramping up. And this is when suddenly you may not be able to sleep well because you're just a little bit higher than normal. You feel the energy more than normal. You're getting more having a greater connection with your guides. You're hearing from loved ones. Synchronicities are common. And this may last for a wonderful period of 2 to 3 weeks as your energetic fields, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual, come into alignment and adjust, acclimate to the higher vibration. I call those the ramping ups. And they're wonderful, exciting periods, but then it levels off at the new normal, a bit higher than where you were before. And you go on like this, learning, growing, trying out this new energy and what it means for you as a soul and a human. And then maybe in a little while, you have another ramping up and you go a little higher. So just a little sharing there about how the spiral of the soul's growth works. Pretty cool, huh? You like that, Bev?
I like it.
Yeah, I can see Bev on my screen, but I can't see all of you until later. At the very end, we'll bring you all in. So if I ask Bev, at least I get feedback. You can always raise your hand by clicking down there. Raise your hand. If you like that, raise your hand. Woohoo! I love watching that little counter go up. Yay! So it's funny. I have to do my radio show Thursday afternoon, 1 hour before registration starts. No, during registration for the retreat. So all these people, I'm going to be there greeting them, and I'll be in the tower doing my radio show. But it reminded me of something I wanted to share with you. I always try to bring a learning point into my experiences so that we relate it to you. But this was when I had Dr. Mark Pitstick as my guest on the show. We were having a wonderful conversation. The show went to a break. And during the break, for some reason, Mark's phone cut out. So he's gone. I'm talking to the engineer. Where's Mark? Mark, are you there? And we're about to end the break. And his line just disappeared. And we're trying to call him. Nothing's happening. And I'm back on the air. This is the challenge of a live radio show. For 5 minutes, I had to do what we used to call in the Navy tap dancing. And that means, you just wing it. And I have to tell you that I modulated, that's not quite the word, alternated between panic and total peace. And this is exactly how we live our human lives. We fall into the human side of us that gets washed around by these waves of emotions and what's happening in the drama. And then we remember who we are, which is a soul always tapped into infinite awareness, pure consciousness, and there's the peace. And then we rest in that a while, and then something here in the human world grabs our attention, such as, did you get Mark back on the line yet? And we panic again. So it was 5 minutes of doing this balancing act. And the whole goal is to keep them integrated. So I hope I did well, because I don't think that anybody knew on the radio show that I was inside having this back and forth flow. But it's, that's so much better. If I wasn't fully integrated, at least for all of us, if you can remember that that other side of you is always accessible, always present, you're so much far ahead of the game than most humans who don't remember principle number 1 of the awakened way, that you're a beautiful soul here and now. You walk in 2 worlds at once. So when you don't have that tool of knowing, you don't have something to fall back on, that instant access to peace, then the drama can really run away from you. So just a little hint and a reminder that when the drama gets a little bit high, it's a matter of reprogramming your awareness. And that's what the awakened way is all about. ABCs, aligning with your higher self at all times so that you maintain balance. That's going to be a big topic for the second half of tonight. Balance your head with your heart. This is the basis of Wolf's message. Don't worry about thinking so much. Knowing comes from the heart. Balance the two, going back and forth and integrating them. And then the C, the ABCs of the awakened way is connect regularly with higher consciousness. That's the reprogramming. You're actually repatterning the neuronal circuits in your brain. We create, I'm getting this as we go from the team, ruts in the way our brain works, constantly just running through the same programs over and over again. Where if you can fill in those ruts and no longer sink into them, the reprogramming happens when you connect regularly with your guides. Find yourself some way to remind yourself, have I checked in with my team? Have I remembered who I am as a soul? This is some of the best self-love you can have, by working on yourself, by reminding yourself, I have a team of helpers, I have my own higher self. Have I checked in lately? Do this several times every day. Make it a habit. And then when things knock you off balance, you will automatically go back to that place of peace. All right. I saw that Cheryl Page is listening tonight from Colorado. Cheryl, I think I talked to you that we were going to be sharing a little bit of magic that we experienced earlier this month. She and I, we were emailing back and forth recently, and Cheryl is on the most amazing journey, now a medium herself, as a result of her partner, Scott, who passed over a year ago. And after he came through in a reading with me and several other mediums, that left Cheryl with no doubt that he's around. Well, we had been emailing, and Scott dropped in on me that a message that he was sending Cheryl some flowers, pink and white flowers specifically, and she was to look around because they were around her. And as I was typing my notes a short time later from our interaction, Cheryl's and mine, Scott came back in with a person in the spirit world who I have never met, but Cheryl has. We've shared this story before in the mentoring, but somebody that dropped in on her in her meditation, who she had never met but found online and has now established a relationship with this man's family. Imagine this call out of the blue. I have your loved one in the spirit world. I'm going to call him John Doe, the man in the spirit world who has reached out through Cheryl to connect with his family. This is a key point for all of you to understand. Those in the spirit world can tell by your light if you are a good communicator for them. You see, when I talk about in the invocation, turning up your light, it truly makes a difference. And all of the things we're talking about tonight, all of the things you do in your spiritual practice, make it more easy for the spirit world to communicate through you. So Cheryl is clearly a bright light in that. This John Doe sensed her, and no connection whatsoever, other than noticing that her light had just the right frequency that he would be able to be sensed by her. He dropped in on her. So she's had a relationship with him and his family for quite some time now. So here I am typing up my notes, and Cheryl's partner, Scott, on the other side, came back with John Doe. Now, I only knew it was John Doe because her partner, Scott, said, this is him, and he said to me, I have a choo-choo train for my granddaughter. Very specific. I have a choo-choo train for my granddaughter. So I sent that to Cheryl, and I want to share with you the timeline that she sent back to me. At 6:30 that morning, she was drinking tea, and for no apparent reason, knew she needed to text the daughter and widow of John Doe. So this is before she and I even communicated about the drop-in from Scott and John Doe. She just knew she needed to communicate with them. Okay, so that was 6:30. She went ahead and texted John Doe's daughter, and at 6:32, she texted John's widow. At 6:33, she got a text from me saying, I have so much to share with you. Can you talk later? Why am I going through this timeline? So you understand how it works. The spirit world, Scott is always connected at the heart with Cheryl. Of course, deep love has brought them together to work across the veil. And John Doe is connected to Cheryl through Scott on the other side. John has a message for his family. His widow has been going through a tough time, and he sees this communication between mediums and said, let's have some fun. Let's get a message to my family. I want you all to understand, they see us, they interact with us, their world is as close as ours. So anyway, 6:35, I sent Cheryl the text saying, Scott sent you flowers with pink and white petals. At 6:40, Cheryl stood up, looked at Scott's photo and said, I feel the flowers are right in front of my eyes. So she's already clairsentiently feeling that they're somewhere around. Then she looks up and right in front of her is a scarf with the pink and white flower petals right there. She laughs, she kissed his photo and she thanked him. And this is another lesson for all of you. Immediately acknowledging this out loud. You don't have to, but you know, that heart connection is just beautiful for them because they know then message received. So a few hours later, 9:48, Cheryl's at her office and I called her and Cheryl calls me back. And we talked, but I forgot to tell her about John Doe's message about the train. So I texted her a few hours later to say, forgot to tell you, John Doe showed up with Scott this morning. He says he has a choo-choo train for his granddaughter. So a few minutes later, she calls John's daughter. And before Cheryl could even share the message, the daughter started chatting and telling her that she had just been on the phone with her mom, John's widow, and her mom was telling her this story, that when John's granddaughter, we'll call her Missy, was little, she used to hide her toy dolls in her grandmother's dresser. And just that day of this phone call, John's widow found one of her grandson's Thomas the Train pieces hidden in the same dresser where the granddaughter used to hide the dolls. Isn't that cool? So she shrieked out loud on the phone when the mother says this before she even had a chance to tell her. And she said, what did you just say? Can you repeat that? And so she says, you're not going to believe this. And I shared with her the text message you had just sent to me minutes before. I love this. Cheryl says she was gobsmacked, to say the least. Those of you tuning in from England will certainly recognize that term, gobsmacked. So it's just awesome, the connection there. I mean, it took about a nanosecond for me to get that message from John Doe. But do you see the connections across the veil and to our world? Just like the Awaken Way principle number 2, it's all one big web and we are connected. Where? At the heart, the center of each of us. This is going to be the main focus, as I mentioned later on. I know I sent out the email saying I have some new teaching from my friend Brenda across the veil. Brenda teaching, we call it breaching. And we had a beautiful drop-in from her 2 days ago now, maybe 3 days ago, with teaching that just left me awed. I have to tell you before I forget, some of you who've heard me talk about Brenda's drop-ins know that she often lets those of us who can feel her know she's around by giving us a little tickle in the head, in the hair. And it feels like, to me, it feels like a bug in my hair. It's amazing to be sitting in meditation, to get this tickle, and then the next moment, there's Brenda. So the very day that she showed up 3 days ago, I went out to walk the dogs with Ty. I came back inside and I said, Brenda, you're back? Is that you? I get this big tickle in my hair. And then I went, because there really was a bug in my hair. And I said, I like Brenda's tickles better. So anyway, all righty. We're going to be talking, the teaching is about balance. It comes up several times in tonight's teaching. Why being in a balanced state is critical to connecting with higher consciousness in any form. Please remember, when we talk about higher consciousness, that can be your own higher self, also known as the soul, your soul. This can be your guides. Higher consciousness is your loved ones who have passed because they no longer carry around the dense energy of a physical body, veiling that soul. And hang on, my computer just said we're going to restart. I said, don't you dare. So hopefully that won't happen, right? It won't happen during the webinar. Okay. And then higher consciousness, of course, can be angels, archangels, and you could just call it the source itself. What's so important to keep in mind on this journey is the more you understand who you are, an expression of the source, you understand that all that is, everyone tuned in here tonight, everyone who exists, every animal, every creature is an extension of that source. So tuning into higher consciousness is just tuning into another expression of the same source that we all share. That's why it's possible to connect with anyone or anything. We are this consciousness in expression. Where there is no separation, we call that love. That's why it feels so good when all of us come together. We have, so many of us together tonight, connected in a feeling of oneness, and that's love. I love all of you. It's awesome. All righty. So let's see. So here's a great imagery that came up in a reading I just did a couple days ago. I had a woman client, and her mother from the spirit world came in and very clearly showed some guilt that my client was feeling and had felt ever since her mother passed. And her mom in the spirit world showed me the cause of that guilt. And the client was able to validate that, showing that clearly this connection across the veil was very real and very nice and clear. And her mother's love was apparent. And through the apologies and through the client talking to her mom and back and forth, some wonderful healing took place. And this is when the mother had some beautiful teaching across the veil. She said she wants all of us to picture that bubble of light around us, but picture it like a glass sphere. Excuse me. And she said that anything less than the vibrations aligned with the soul show up as smudges on this sphere. That sphere is our connection with all that is. So these are the veil again, that connects us or filters our connection with the spirit world, becomes smudged, sometimes even darkened, due to any vibration, any emotion that you are regularly feeling, or perhaps even one event that has caused a really dark smear or smudge on your light. And so the mother showed us in this wonderful analogy that as they discussed this woman's guilt, and her mother said, it's okay, I understand now why all that happened, I forgive you, and the daughter gave her gratitude, the mother reached up and it was like Windexing the glass and just cleared that smudge and said to her daughter, you did this by forgiving me. And now I see you even more clearly. And I hope you'll be able to sense me more clearly. So I hope that that analogy helps all of you to see when you work on yourselves, when you work on forgiveness, non-judgment, unconditional love, which is what our path is all about. God, do we have enough opportunities and reasons to work on these things? Every one of us. None of us is immune to these human feelings. That's why we're here. But the more we work on them and clear them out, I guess that's why they call it becoming enlightened, because more of your light can shine outward. It is an ongoing process. And I think, I don't know whose quote it was I just read recently. And someone asked this very wise person, are you enlightened? And he said, for the moment. I love that. I love that. We can never get too sure of ourselves, because something will come along and push some trigger and you find another smudge on the glass. So you guys like that? You can raise your hand. I hope so. I thought it was fascinating. Yay. All right. So glad you joined us tonight. All righty. Let's see. Lynette, are you here yet? You can raise your hand or chat with Bev. I don't want to tell this story till she's here. She might have been a little late and was going to join us by phone until she could come in person. Do you see her?
Yeah, our Lynette.
Yeah, yes, there she is. She gave me permission to share this. But okay. Many of you know that Lynette's beautiful, wonderful, love of her life husband, Mike, passed to the spirit world a while back. He's come through mediums in beautiful ways, and I recognize Mike when he drops in. And called her the other day to chat, and she was sitting at a, what do we call that, Lynette? What kind of an event was it? She's going to have to type that to you, Bev. What was the event, Lynette, where you had Mike's belongings? Antiques flea market. Okay, I didn't want to call it a flea market and denigrate what you were doing, because yeah, she had taken many of Mike's belongings, some of his treasured belongings, to sell at this antiques flea market. And understandably, that was a difficult thing to do. And this question came up recently on my radio show from somebody who was cleaning their mom's house after her mom had passed. And oh, that is challenging for us humans, because our loved ones' items hold their energy. Literally, you can do what's called psychometry and hold an item that belonged to a loved one, and their energy field is there, but it's not them, that's their energy. And so I was so grateful that we happened to connect that morning while she was doing that, because I could feel the fact that Lynette knows who we are and she knows Mike is okay. I want all of you listening to this to relate this to your own lives, please. But at the same time, that's a tough thing for humans to do. And she had just sold these special canes that Mike had in a collection. And I could feel her pain, and you just shift and you ask for something a little wiser than the Suzanne story could come up with at the moment. And the most beautiful insight came in, and I said, Lynette, but just think of the joy now that the people who bought those canes will have as they get to enjoy them. And oh, it just instantly raised the energy. And if we could just think that, we have attachment to things, and it's understandable. But there's a song by Dido, and she says, nothing I have is really mine. And this is true about everything in the world. And it's really, really important to look around and think, if my house burned down tonight, would I be devastated? And you always hear those stories about people that, of course, they cry and they say, yeah, but we're still here. And so it's our things, when we get attached to them, that can cause our suffering, along with many other things in this life. But anyway, we chatted, and then I went off to do a reading, and the reading was over, and suddenly I just felt this nudge. If you've read my book, Droplets of God, this Mavis Patilla story, you know that those in the spirit world put thoughts in our head. And I know now that it was Mike who put the thought in my head, take a selfie of yourself, silly and waving at Lynette. Now, I don't do that too often. Let's send emoticons and things. Lynette is my scheduling assistant. She schedules all of my readings. So we do communicate a lot and send texts back and forth. But so held up the selfie, do a little waving thing. And as I'm sending it to her, there's Mike. So now I know he's the one that put this thought in my mind. It was like, you've got to cheer her up a little bit more. And just like that, I mean, so fast, so fleeting, he showed me a wooden Indian. I knew for a fact this was his. This was his. And so I texted her that message, and yep. In fact, that was one thing that she kept and was not going to sell. How's that for a validation? Way to go, Mike. It's like saying, and he was smiling, it's like, send her a smile, send her a wave. It's all okay. It's my stuff. And I know we have memories, but I like that you hung on to that Indian. Isn't that great? Yay. I think I better answer a question, because we do some Q&As during these webinars. And I've been going for half an hour already. I'm going to make sure at a certain time I get to the main topic of balance and the breaching from Brenda. But for now,
okay. Let me ask that her question. Right. Any suggestions as to how to open one's third eye?
The third eye, otherwise known as the sixth chakra, is the seat of clairvoyance, clear vision. I just answered this question on my radio show last week, so this is fresh in my mind, but I want to see if we get any new insights from Sanaya on this. And again, the answer comes that intention is very key, and everything that we're talking about this evening and every month when we do these webinars, it is there's a word, iterative process. I don't even know what iterative means. It builds upon itself. So as you work to clear your entire energy field, as you work to allow the clearest possible flow for the life force, I'm being shown that the brighter the light is allowed to flow through our vessel, that in itself clears and opens and activates more each of the chakras' innate powers. And the guides are hesitant to use a word such as powers because these are innate abilities that each of the chakras allows each of us to have. So clairvoyance is seeing with the eyes of the soul, and all of us can do that by seeing images on the screen of our eye. They're showing me, they being Sanaya, that a wonderful practice to do. You don't have to go into meditation, perhaps just spend a couple minutes at a time throughout your day, once a day or several times a day, and eyes open or eyes closed, visualize a particular memory from your life and see it in full detail. Bring back to your awareness, because you can bring it into the now simply by focusing upon it, every little detail. This trains the third eye to be seeing details. So that's really some good advice. And them being told that you can even remember and bring into your awareness scents and tastes and sounds that were there. So clearly you can work on all of the clairs, all of your senses, the soul senses at once by reliving, bringing into the present time special memories. So raising your vibration, working on clearly holding a focus and expanding the view and looking for details is excellent training. All right. Thanks, Chassie. I'm sorry we couldn't see you or hear you, but I hope that's helpful for all of us. Good question. How about another one, Beth?
Another one, Susan Page. Let me promote you to panelist.
Can you take those others off of there, Bev? They're still showing up.
Yes, I will.
We'll do this one and then move on. Ding dong.
Here she comes.
I hope.
Susan, are you there?
Okay, Susan, you have something over your camera. There we go. Hi, Susan. Let's bring it on. Good to see you. And Bev, while we're talking, if you can get those other two and
yes, okay,
take them back to attendees. How are you tonight?
Pretty good, thank you.
So you have a question?
Yes, I've been working on, you know, an incident that happened to me a couple of years ago, and I'm just having trouble forgiving myself and the other people involved. And I've read a lot, I've tried a lot of things, and I'm just still stuck. So I was just wondering any suggestions.
Yes. If you're stuck, you're still very much having what we call the bottom-up view. That's the human looking up as if you're only human and you're looking higher for higher help, instead of realizing that you are both a human with a bottom-up view and a soul with the top-down bird's eye perspective. And right here at the center, and we're already getting into this teaching on balance, and there'll be more to follow, but the heart is the center. So go to the heart, and you have such malleability to change your perspective at any time. So do you have children?
No.
No. Okay. I don't have biological children either. But imagine a parent who understands when children do certain things and why they do them and says, well, children will be children. Well, how about taking the perspective of the soul and saying, humans will be humans and humans do certain things, and understanding from the soul's perspective, your own soul's perspective, why that happened at that time. Humans learn by trial and error. That didn't work, whatever it was, clearly, but carrying around that weight of guilt or unforgiveness serves no purpose for your soul's growth. If you can do what the masters call it, dying daily, you know, what if you died today? See your life review. Look at yourself and see, now I can see by the interaction there why that choice was made. And maybe that wasn't an optimal choice at the time, but there's such compassion for all people involved in that. By pretending as if you already passed and now you're reviewing your actions, you see that. But now look at yourself right now and say, look how she carried that along for all those years, when if she just changed her perspective, that would have helped the soul's growth. Remember, I don't know if you were here earlier when I was talking about the spiral of growth. At any point on that spiral, you can see what you're still carrying around. And it makes it really, it's like it's an upward spiral. So on that upward climb, the more baggage we can leave behind, the more we lighten our load, the better our soul, the soul's growth is. And that's the whole reason we're here. So you do it for your soul. Mavis Patilla said a line that has helped me so much. Once I read it, I started laughing, and I left behind this fear that I've been carrying around about mediumship, about doing public demonstrations. Everybody has their issues. The line is, and it's totally tongue-in-cheek, okay? The soul has a problem, and the problem is you. Okay, because the soul really doesn't have a problem. The soul knows that we're here to learn, we're here to have experiences, but the problem is when we don't realize that this is why we're here, to let our soul shine. So if you can just pretend you died right now and say, well, that was all wasted time, wasn't it? If I could have just seen from the soul's perspective, I would have realized, yeah, I made a mistake, but it's time to leave that behind. Okay? And you can do it just like that. And then it just becomes a matter of reprogramming those circuits, those ruts. You're just in a habit now. So catch yourself. Write a big note. Stick it on your mirror or you brush your teeth, whatever it's going to take to say, no more patterns, or whatever works for you. I'm conscious of my thoughts. And the second you catch yourself falling back into that woulda, shoulda, coulda pattern, have a new word to turn it around. My soul doesn't have a problem anymore. Something like that. Okay? I'm here to shine. I'm going to shine. All right? All right. Thank you. I love when the questions help everybody, help all of us. Thanks, Bev.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thank you, Susan. Great to see you. All right. Let me move on with some of my notes here. Oh my God. We're on page 3. That's okay. For those of you who are practicing mediums or working mediums, a little tip here. When you sit down to do a reading, I find that one of the most challenging things for my human side, because when I sit to do a reading, I may not have been in a nice integrated state, and I'm not already thinking as the soul that does the readings. Part of me says, ooh, I wonder who's going to show up. I hope we get this right. I hope I can discern who's here. That's the big challenge right off the bat. Who's here? I find it helpful to clear the mind of all assumptions. Like you might already be getting a feel, this is going to be a son, or this is going to be a husband. So I sit, and to clear the mind, I say, this could be a son. There could also be a brother here. There could also be a sister. We could have a best friend. Maybe we'll have an aunt. Oh, maybe we'll hear from a grandmother. We might get a dog. And see, I'm just opening up that filter at the back of the brainstem. I'm just opening my mind to all possibilities, because just in our normal interactions, we get in those ruts again. And it's really interesting that as I was practicing this, everything I teach, I practice myself. Just recently, I started a reading. I had cleared all preconceived ideas, and I had this little sense, and the reading started. I got pulled over here where I normally feel siblings, and I heard brother shouted at me and feel a male presence. And I said, I believe there's a brother here. You have a brother on the other side. And darned if the client didn't. Kind of unusual to have brothers on the other side. 3 days in a row, 3 readings in a row, brother, brother, brother on the other side. I just love those little synchronicities from the other side. It's like the spirit world's Boris is over there, my guide, saying, okay, let's line up the brothers this week. A certain vibration. So again, just clear out assumptions. Back to very basics in mediumship, psychic work. anything you're doing with the healing modalities, just remember every word out of your mouth, especially as a medium, is so important. Hopefully you're recording your sessions. There should never be a reason why you, well, I should never say never. Okay, let me check. My point here is, if you feel that you're good enough to be working as a medium, there should be the confidence, a should. How do we do this without should? Have the confidence to record your sessions. This is what I'm saying. And then the reason I'm saying is just be aware that everything that comes out of your mouth then may very well be listened to over and over and over by your clients. It never ceases to surprise me when I have clients write back to me who tell me that they listen to the reading every week, or they listen on special occasions and they listen to it over and over. That becomes a record of their reunion with a loved one. And so that's why rule number one for me is do no harm, but just keep that balance between the flow going in a reading, but also being so aware of what you're about to say. Okay. Our clients will remember these for the rest of their lives, and hopefully it's a gift, and these are wonderful things that they will cherish in their hearts. Speaking of mediumship, I want to give a plug for my friend and colleague, Suzanne Wilson. She and I are doing a workshop in Washington, D.C., near Dulles Airport. Bev, do you have the dates for that? So many, I don't know which one it is. She can find out.
I'll be back with them.
Well, you can get back while I'm talking about that. It's getting to know your spirit guides. I know some of you have attended our workshop. We have a really great energy when the two of us work together, getting to know your spirit guides. But the reason I brought up Suzanne is she reached out to me and asked me to give a good word for her mentorship program that's coming up. I do these monthly mentorings, and they're for large groups, clearly, and it's I can't give everybody personal attention, but Suzanne offers a 6-person mentoring program that lasts 5 weeks. It's coming up in June, and she's opening up 2 classes. So if any of you want to study with a really excellent medium, check out carefreemedium.com, because she is opening that up to just 6 students who want to really, really focus in on specifically mediumship. There you go. What are the dates of the working with your spirit guides?
July 13 and 14.
Thank you, Bev. July 13 and 14 in Washington, D.C. It's going to be a nice time. All righty. So as I mentioned before, that funny line from Mavis, your soul has a problem and the problem is you. That's just a joke. But boy, it does bring things into perspective when we understand that we are here for our soul's growth. Okay? So I was getting ready to do a demonstration of mediumship with Mavis when she came to the villages earlier this month, last month. And oh, what a pleasure that is to be on the platform with her and working together and sharing that beautiful energy. And my guides reminded me to share with all of us that if we've lost the joy in doing this work, then we've lost sight of who we are. That, you know, I sat in the back of the room as Mavis taught a class in the villages, and this fear of standing in front of each other, fear of looking foolish, fear of not being our best, and what will people say is so human. Oh, haven't we all experienced that? And so when we can just remember that it's not about us, it's about the joy that the soul feels in connecting with other souls, that changes everything. And that's all I needed to get aligned so that I could work. And they also reminded me something that I hope all of you will find interesting, that the spirits that a medium brings through in the reading or a demonstration of mediumship have already been chosen by, the spirits have chosen the medium. That's it. The medium has been chosen by the spirits because of this affinity in the vibration. They know that you, the medium, will be just right for their energy. And they showed me that in preparing for that time when you will bring them through, they're downloading their whole field of energy information into your subconscious mind. And they showed me, you know, that feeling when something is right on the tip of your tongue, but you can't quite get it, you're grasping at it. That's because it's still in the subconscious mind. And the teaching they gave me as I was preparing to demonstrate with Mavis in front of, we had close to 300 people, didn't we, Bev? Yeah. So they showed me, you don't have to worry, any of you, when you do a demonstration or do anything with the spirit world, because they know you're going to do this. They know they're coming to you, and they're putting all this information literally right on the tip of your tongue. And what was really cool is when they gave me this teaching a few weeks ago, I said to them, I know this is you, I know this is your teaching, but hey, let's have a synchronicity today with the word tongue. And I knew that that droplet of God came from the spirit world. As I've taught in these mentoring sessions before, many times when you ask for a sign from your guides, which I recommend you do frequently when they give you teaching, they tell you what to ask for even though you may not realize it. So that adds to the excitement for me. When's the last time you read anything in a book with the word tongue in it? Kind of unusual. Well, I had a new book arrived in the mail from Amazon that very day when I asked for that sign. I can't remember what the book was, but it was, believe it or not, some spiritual thing. And the probability of the word tongue being in that book was very low. It was not a medical book or anything that would have that in it, but it came with this knowing that I would find that word. So I started reading and I'm thinking, why would that word even be in this book at all? And it's getting time for bed. And I said to Ty, I got to read a little bit in bed, because that urgent feeling that I get when I know it's coming, or getting close, was building. And so I'm reading, and I turn the page, Ty's lying down, you know, already closing in his eyes. I've got the light on. And there it was. It was actually talking about the Algonquin tongue, meaning language. And I literally went, because there it was. And poor Ty, you know, he's used to this, these gasps. And I said, Ty, you know, this is this word I asked for. It's my sign. Clearly the teaching coming from higher consciousness. But I hope you like a little bit of magic shared there with the teaching about how the spirits choose you as their communicator. Now, if you're not a medium, you want to communicate with your own loved ones, again, they're going to come to you as your own light burns brighter, as you become aligned, your human side and your soul. How to do that, I'll show you a way in a little bit here. Alrighty. Da, 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 da. Here's one. Getting names in a reading. I believe that we humans put more emphasis and importance on that than is necessary. There are some people as clients, as sitters, for whom that's really important. I mean, who can deny that if you're sitting with a medium and they say, well, this is your daughter and her name is Susan, she's telling me Susan, that's a really big wow. They could also just be reading your energy field though, couldn't they? So what's really important is to capture the essence of Susan, the essence of the daughter or the father or the brother. Yeah, name's nice, but you should know who this person is without them giving you their name, simply by the memories, the essence, the character, and messages and evidence they bring you. So it's been a big challenge for me to not say in a reading, I'm not good at names. That automatically guarantees you're not going to get any better. So I will always say, well, I'm working on names. And suddenly, as I mentioned, I was sitting in the back of Mavis's class, and it's always wonderful to be around other mediums. There are always little tidbits you pick up. And she said something that all of a sudden I understood why I have, until this point, not been as good at names as I would like. I've always known the spirit world is withholding it for a reason, for my own growth. And it's because Mavis said, if you get a name, don't give it unless you know who it is, the relationship, and why the spirit is bringing it up. One of the things I see all the time is mediums that say, I'm getting a B or I'm getting an M. And as somebody in the audience of a demonstration, that's something that skeptics will jump all over. So, I mean, absolutely in the past, I'd say, well, I'm hearing the name John. And, you know, if you're lucky, the person says, oh yeah, I know a John, but what good is that? And I realize now the reason that I often hear random names is I feel like the spirit world saying they were pushing you to be even more clear. So I decided to put that into practice the very next day after I heard it and was doing a reading. In fact, I was sitting in Bev's house, right there where she's sitting, because she let me use her house while I was visiting in Florida. I promised the spirit world I would honor them by not giving information unless I knew what it was all about. So that's really a nice way to think about that, if you can hold that in your heart. So I had a woman was bringing through her husband, and he gave me the name Jerry. It came through just like every other name, just like that. It just falls into my mind, Jerry. And in the past, I would have said, well, I'm hearing Jerry. And then you kind of rely on the sitter. And that's, in my latest growth as a medium, that's what I'm trying to do, is not rely on the sitter at all to say yes or no. But this time I said, we're going to do what I promised you, spirit world. And I felt into it. This is what I've taught in the past. When you hear something or see something, combine that with the clairsentience. Notice how I'm going to the heart area. Push out the love, surround that information that you just got, and sense into it. Or ask the spirit world silently, so who's Jerry and why are you bringing him up? And darned if I didn't sense Jerry was this man's friend, and he has been supportive of the man's wife since he died. So Jerry's still alive. The man in the spirit world was bringing him up for that reason. And darned if that wasn't correct. Ooh, it's like the spirit world just waits and gives you these opportunities. So take them, everybody. If you're working as a medium and you're not happy with the way things are going, ask your team, how could I do better? How can I feel more into this? Now, has this been working for me every time since then? Not at all. We're all works in progress, but I know what it takes now, and it's that really fine-tuning the clairsentience, the feeling aspect of it. And it's been hard to hear some names and not give it. But here's another key point right now. If there's a reason, really important reason, that spirit wants you to get that name and they got it through to you, then hang on to that, because they will try their darndest to get that reason to you if we just trust ourselves and be patient. It'll come up later in the reading. All righty. I'll take a question from somebody if there's one. And then we're going to move on to the breaching. Ooh, one more thing after that, then the breaching.
Okay. Jen Anderson has a question. Let me find Jen.
Oh, yeah, right.
Jen, I'm bringing you on screen.
Yay. And she's muted.
And we'll get you, there you go, you're all set.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm actually pretty excited to be talking to you. It's
good.
Really synchronistic. It's awesome.
Hey. Well, welcome. How can I help you tonight, I hope?
So I talked to a medium about a month and a half ago, and my Nana came through. And she told me that she sends me signs all the time. And she said that I don't need to go through a third party to connect with her. Have you ever had a spirit tell you that?
All the time. That's the whole point of this program. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. Okay.
cool.
By the way, I just, as you say that, I see bluebirds. So keep on the lookout for bluebirds from your grandmother. Okay. Does that have any meaning to you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Actually.
Awesome.
Very cool. So I have another question going along with that.
Let me just make sure that I answer that other than just saying absolutely. Oh yeah, it's just so clear that some people can communicate more easily than others, but just start by talking. All of you, talk to your loved ones and then just become more and more open, set that intention of being a clear channel for them, and apply everything we're talking about tonight and that we talk about every month. Okay? All right. And
Yeah, that sounds great.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, I think you kind of just answered it. I have like mild ADD, so it's really, really hard to calm down my mind and quiet it. And I was thinking about listening to your HemiSync audios, but I was just wondering if you had any suggestions on where to start.
Number one suggestion is drop the labels.
Okay.
You say, my energetic body may be a bit excited, but I'm going to calm it through the regular practice of meditation or presence.
That sounds great.
Okay? Don't let anybody label you with anything. You know, it's all relative. You can get used to your own field of energy. That's your norm. That's your norm. Okay? Doesn't matter how anybody else is. And so you're a soul as clear as anybody else is. And so just say, okay, from this high vibing body here, we're going to connect even better with those in the spirit world. Okay?
That sounds great. Thank you.
All right. Nice to connect with you. Alrighty. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right. And by the way, I don't know if I mentioned, but thanks to Bev, every past session that we've done on these monthly webinars are available in the archive store now. So they're all there on the website. How about one more, Bev?
Okay, this one is anonymous.
Okay.
I understand that many mediums believe that one has to be a natural born medium to use that skill in this lifetime. I also understand that we have a life plan. Can we exercise free will to change the plan and become mediums if we weren't born with the gift?
Now, see, if you ask a born medium, that's what they'll say. If you ask me, in the past, I didn't call myself a born medium because I was 44 years old when I first connected with the spirit world through Susan's passing and everything that happened after that. However, it's very clear that this is my calling. So am I a born medium from the soul's perspective? Yes, but I wasn't aware of it. So what if you're not aware of it till you're in your 60s? Does that mean you're not a born medium? We don't know until our heart tells us, I am supposed to do this. So play and have fun and explore and try all different paths, and you will know when you're supposed to do something. In the meantime, all of us have the ability to tune into the spirit world because we are spirits in the physical body. And I'm going to tell you, some kind of meditative, focused, contemplative practice is key. A regular process of expanding our awareness that helps to turn our light up brighter and allow more of the life force to flow through us. Okay? Thanks, Bev. And thanks for whoever asked the question. So speaking of our light, before we get to balance here, the spirit world sees our light. I think this is a theme for this evening. They recognize mediums and people who, you don't have to be a working medium. A medium is anybody who can regularly detect the spirit world. So I know a lot of you aren't working as mediums, but you may connect with your own loved ones or your guides regularly. So I saw the analogy. I don't remember if this was something from all of the paperwork when I was writing Mavis's book, but I'm giving this my own twist here of thinking of yourself like a traffic light. I want all of you to use your third eye right now and visualize a traffic light. Okay? So the light, when it's red, if you were radiating, this is just an analogy, a red light to the spirit world is like you saying, I can't work with the spirit world. I can't do this. I don't have this ability. I'm not good enough. That's just like you putting up this stoplight that's on red. And the spirit world just looks at that red light and says, well, I can't work with them either if they're going to be radiating those kind of thoughts. Now, when you start to have thoughts that are a little bit more positive, but still kind of limited, now you're going to be a yellow light. And the specific message from a yellow light might be, I want names when I do a reading. I'm pointing the finger at me here when I say that, okay? Or we might get really attached to a list of evidence, which I teach the list, but I try so hard to get everybody not to be attached to it, to use evidence as a way to open up our filter so that anything can get through. But if we say, I'm not going to be happy unless I sense how you passed and what your name was, that's like a yellow light. Now you can picture the spirit world on the other side saying, well, I can go through this traffic light here, this yellow light, but do we have to work with this medium? They're a little demanding. And a green light to the spirit world is a communicator here in the physical world who says, I am here for you. May the greater good be served by our coming together today. Bring it on. I'm going to do my best for you. If you give me evidence, that's awesome. If you don't, I'm okay with that. If you give me message, may I be the clearest possible instrument for that. That's a green light. So I hope you can use that analogy when you sit down and, again, in awareness of your own thoughts at all time. Be hearing what you are sending out into your field, even if it's your desire is to speak to your own loved ones and not to communicate with others' loved ones as a medium. What kind of light are you showing? I can't do this, or I don't really believe they're here. That's a red light. Yellow light is, oh, I'm not sure I can do this. You have to give me this specific sign instead of, I heard that a sign would be nice, but I don't have to have a sign. That's more of a green light. So another nice little analogy to play with there. One other little quickie, now we're going to move into the breaching, is I myself have found myself often talking about lower vibrations or negative vibrations, which certainly we interact with all the time. But I don't even like the word or the term. It brings the vibrations down. And one of my guests on my radio show 2 weeks ago, can't even remember who it was right now, used the term challenging vibrations. And I love that. It's just more open and helps us keep our vibration up. So when you deal with people who have challenging vibrations, we just let those flow through us. See how much better that is without labeling somebody else's vibrations as lower or even our own. Just challenging. All righty. So here we go. Let me go forward. Can you hear me? If you could see the floor, you'd see I'm throwing all my notes on the floor. Oh, okay, we'll get to that. Hang on. Make sure I didn't lose anything. Okay. So, raise your hand if you're going to be joining me at Unity Village this week. A few of you. Okay. Good. So I'm glad the rest of you are joining me because I'm really looking forward to sharing this with you. Balance is the subject. And we talk about being centered. And we know what that means. It means being in a nice, peaceful state. Our goal is to connect with higher consciousness, which we mentioned earlier this evening, can be your own higher self, loved ones, angels, the masters, the source itself. So to communicate with higher consciousness, of course, we would want to be in a nice, centered state. But I'll talk about why as we go along. But, oh, when was it? Last week, I was supposed to do a reading. I remember why I was out of sorts. Out of sorts because we had a mechanical problem with the bus, which is our home for the next year. And we had to put it in the shop. Well, I had a reading scheduled. What am I going to do? Well, I have to do the reading from the car. That's not too much of a problem because in the past, I used to meditate every day in the car when we had a smaller RV. You can meditate anywhere that you just make your own sacred space. So, okay. The whole morning is discombobulated because we had to drop the bus off, but I'm now settled in the car, but totally out of sorts. And time is running out. I have about 9 minutes till the reading's going to start. And it is so important to be peaceful and centered to do a reading. If I'm out of sorts like that, I generally will do my own 10-minute transformation chakra clearing exercise that's free on my website, the 10-minute transformation. But I have 9 minutes, and the secret is it's not 10 minutes, it's 12. So now what am I going to do? I don't have time to do that. I'm going to have to do a mini chakra clearing exercise. Well, Ty has gone into Starbucks. The dogs are in the back seat of the car. So I'm just getting ready to balance my chakras, and Ty comes back in the car. I was like, I'm sorry, honey, I forgot whatever it was, you know. And now I'm just like, oh, and he leaves, and I did something that is so out of character for me, but I see now it was a setup because it leads to this teaching. He left, and when he was out of earshot, sitting in the car, we're now down to 6 minutes before the reading, I let out a primal scream. I mean, it was just this roar. And I'm sure the dogs in the back seat are thinking, Mom has gone crazy. What do we do? And then I said, it's okay, guys. The moment I did that, thinking, oh my God, how am I going to get it back in balance? I heard my entire team in spirit, who are clearly gathered for this reading, laughing hysterically. And it came with this claircognizance, this knowing, teaching point, and I got it. They wanted me to laugh out loud. Why? To completely balance the energy of the primal scream. And I did. I started, if you've heard of laughter yoga or giggle yoga, I've never engaged in it, but I'm sitting there in the front seat of the car, and I will not demonstrate, but I started laughing, belly laughs, and just smiling makes your energy rise. So imagine what laughing does. I'm sitting there, and it was miraculous. It instantly neutralized that primal scream. It instantly erased all of the angst and the frustration. Now the dogs really think Mom's lost it from the backseat, right? I go from primal scream to laughing. But can you see that extreme energy? How often do we just laugh by ourselves? And that was it. And now my time's up. And let me tell you, that reading was wonderful. We had the most wonderful connection. I didn't explain any of that had happened. I didn't tell my client that I was off. All I said was, I know you can see I'm sitting in my car. You have nothing to worry about. I used to meditate here. Put your client at ease. And it was beautiful. So when that was over, I thought I would have to make a note of that and share that with everybody. That's just a preview for what's to come. So why does this work? Now we're really getting into the meat of things here. Before I talk about Brenda dropping in to explain this, I want to talk a little bit about a subject that I'm going to teach quite a bit of Saturday morning at the retreat, and that's a little bit about sacred geometry. We are light beings. We have an energetic field around us. The most basic form is the sphere. All shapes can be created. All patterns of energy can fit within a sphere. This is an arbitrary boundary. It's porous. Our sphere changes size, changes brightness. That's when I'm talking about us being a light. Turn up your light. Picture that in a spheric shape. But it's more than a sphere. We're this beautiful form that's called a torus. Picture a donut. And it's really interesting because as I'm reading Wolf's message this week for the audiobook, the torus features prominently in that book because Wolf came back in his message to teach us we need to balance the head with the heart. My Radiant Heart meditation that's free on my website has us sitting in a shaft of white light and drawing in the energy, not just from above, but from below. And this is how the energy flows in our energetic field. Through this sphere, we are connected with all that is through this central shaft that imagine this flow going in and out constantly. My guides say to picture it like the in-breath and out-breath. That's how we exchange information with all other patterns of consciousness, light beings around us. You are pure consciousness that's arising. Your soul is this energetic being who takes form as a human, which is a specific pattern of sentient energy, consciousness and energy. And that pattern is changing all the time. And what you breathe in You have experiences and you breathe out. This is just energy expanding. And what you have taken in now interacts with the entire field, informing that field from what you've learned. So all of our actions, all of our thoughts affect the entire field of which we are a part. Everything intimately interconnected. Guides just told me I needed to explain something here a little bit more. Just to make it very clear, there is one underlying reality to all of us, and that's pure awareness. We all arise from this ocean of pure potential. The soul aspect of you is the wave-like energy that is everywhere at once. But there's this one localized aspect of your soul, an energetic pattern of experiences, thoughts, sensations, memories that we call you, your story. If you could see the energetic field around you, it actually takes this torus shape. But this torus is actually made of a lower aspect and an upper aspect that comes together to create perfect balance. I'm not going to get into all of the sacred geometry shapes tonight in the time we have, but the lower aspect of this shape, let's give you, actually, should I get into this now? We're just going to talk about upper and lower. Think about the 3 chakras at the base of you, the root chakra, sacral chakra, and solar plexus chakra. These are more associated with your physical, earthly experience. Then you have your upper 3 chakras, the crown chakra 7, 6 is the third eye, and 5th is the throat. These become more and more developed, should we say, more open, more activated as your spiritual journey progresses. The more you respond to events and experiences in your life from a place of unconditional love, the more your abilities to connect across the veil come online. Now we've gone through 1st, 2nd, and 3rd chakra, 7th, 6th, and 5th. The 4th, the heart, is right in the middle. That's the bridge between the physical and the spiritual, the point of balance in all of us. This heart is the connecting point of the 2 upper and lower halves of this torus shape and every other being, creature, creation in the universe. Science is just coming to understand that everything that exists has this same torus field around it, from the smallest subatomic particles to atoms, molecules, cells, human beings, even our earth, have this flow of energy, exchanging energy with every other pattern of light in the universe. Bev, is this making sense to you so far? I can only ask you. She's nodding her head. Okay, that's good. So just keep this in mind now, this exchange of information. This is why when we pass from this physical body, our guides meet us and say, what have you brought us as a whole from your energy field? You know, every action, every thought we have is this exchange of information. So just remember, that's the explanation of how the heart is the bridge. Even the institute called the Heart Math Institute, many of you are familiar with their studies that they do in how to become balanced and coherent beings, has proven that this torus shape, T-O-R-U-S, the donut shape, exists around all of us. And the more we balance the head with the heart, like Wolf talked about, the more we aligned we are with our true nature. Okay, so I have been back to studying sacred geometry again because I'm going to teach it in much more detail this weekend. And 3 days ago in meditation, I get the tickle in my hair and Brenda dropped in on me. And she is really looking forward to this weekend. She's going to be hanging around, she said, and partying with a lot of people. But here's what she described, and I'm going to be reading some of the quotes because I wrote it all down as she gave it to me. But she said, we all just dissolve, Suzanne. It really is like soup. And she's giving us a new metaphor now. We talk about the ocean being the pure consciousness from which all that is arises. That ocean would be God, the source, the light. She's saying that is like soup. And we in human form are the spice of life, the stuff it's all made of, the ingredients. She said, without ingredients, you don't have anything to taste. What fun is there if there's no flavor? And our guides have often said that we're here to have fun. And it may not seem like fun when a lot of us are going through challenges, but truly, when we can see all of this as temporary and learning opportunities for the soul that is never hurt by what happens at the human level. The soul is that more direct aspect, expression of consciousness. We remember that if we can take things a bit more lightly, we don't suffer so much. So she continued, each one of us adds a different flavor to this soup, but we're all made of the same stuff, and the stuff is love, of course. She says, each of us is a specific patterning of life stuff. Think salt and pepper shakers, she said. And then she brought to my mind the yin and yang symbol, which I'm sure you all are familiar with the black and the white, and this dance of harmony. She said, put a little more pepper and a little less salt, and you have a different soup as you change the proportions. Clearly, the salt and pepper represent the polarities of darkness and light that we experience in this earth all the time. Regarding emotions and experiences that we have here in human form, because some people are so off balance, I was shown that to think about some of us here as being off balance is all or nothing thinking. This material world can get off balance, but the soup itself is never off balance. It just is. It's like a base. When you make a soup, you have a base. It's neutral. And then we add to it through our experiences. Understanding that it doesn't need to change. This is just an analogy of how we can play with the ingredients we add to our own life here. All right. She said, picture yourself like a yin-yang sphere. It breathes the salt and pepper in and out through these whirlpools. Picture the torus. You're experimenting. What happens if I add a little pepper here? What happens if I add a little bit of salt here? And our goal is to have, reminds me of the three bears, right? This one is just right. All right. She says to me, yeah, now you're getting it. So good. Let's keep going with this analogy. Salt and pepper. You could create a whole universe with just those two ingredients, she says, just black and white, salt and pepper. It really is all just information shaken around in different proportions. Then she said the Brenda story was a lot of darkness for a while, so a lot more pepper than salt. So anyway, she says, can you see how you could create a whole world with just salt and pepper in different proportions? Think about your black and white TV shows. You don't need color to discern the different images on the screen, just different shadings of dark and light. And we see that around us all the time. But then technology advanced and you got your color TVs, she said. It's all just information encoded differently. But it can go back to just the darkness and the light. But let's not go there, she says. You get the picture. It's just information being spread around, shared, pulsing in patterns to see, does this work or not? But it all comes from the love, the all that is, the shared oneness. She said, just try to be the best balance in the middle of the two that you can. And you can tell when there's too much darkness or light in your life. Now, here's a really, let's see, the cool thing. Here's what she shared. She says, you want to be balanced so you can tap into the field of pure being, into higher consciousness. So you align with that at the center point. And she showed me when you're perfectly balanced, it's like a magnet locking you in to the soul's awareness. And it was so cool because I happened to have with me my little props, these little Dachshund salt and pepper shakers that I have here. And they just look just like Rudy and Gretchen, but they have magnets. So if we have just the right proportion in us at all times, we're human, we're going to have salt and we're going to have pepper. But if we can center ourselves and remember who we are, oh, they click right together. That's like, I want to do a reading for somebody, or I want to connect with my loved one in the spirit world, but I'm a little bit off balance because I'm frustrated this morning and things aren't going the way they're supposed to be, and I have to do my reading in the car. I have more pepper than salt right now, and so I got to bring more salt in. How do I do that? I balance it out. This was frustration. This is laughter. This is the primal scream. This is giggling. And all of a sudden, boom, it locks you right into the center, the heart. And it's like, if you can picture this big grid of energy of which your pattern as a human is part of, all these nodes. I show a visual in my classes of this web with little knots, and all of the knots are the nodes. That would represent the heart of each one of us. And to really connect and be able to know what is going on in everybody else's field, you just got to get that locking in. And we have to be balanced to do that. It's not working. It's not working. There's the balance point. I got to get these home without breaking them. So I just love that. I hope you like it too. But what was really cool was Brenda knows if she's going to give me teaching or preaching, she has to give me evidence. And the moment she said, it's like a magnet when that heart locks into pure consciousness, into the field, into the grid, I knew that magnet was the evidence that was going to let me know this is really Brenda giving this teaching. And she showed me there's a magnet thing going on in the past day with Lynette. And then she showed me Lynette moving a magnet around a refrigerator. And I haven't been to Lynette's house, so I don't know that. And she also showed me some funny magnet that she bought on a trip they made to Mexico. So when all of this teaching was over, and we're not finished yet, of course, I immediately texted Lynette and shared this with her about the magnet. And do you know that she had just, I think the day before, been thinking about this little magnet that I had bought her that's a pin as well, and thinking if she would bring it to the retreat here this week. And last week, she put a magnet on her refrigerator. So I thought that was pretty cool. There's just a little bit of evidence, but right what we're talking about. What's really cool about when I communicate with Brenda is every time she uses Lynette as my evidence, something going on in Lynette's world, I don't even have to ask because she knows it's helpful. So here's straight from Brenda's consciousness. Anyway, right there at the heart of you, at the center of your big bubble, your Taurus field of energy, this constant inflow and outflow of information that you're exchanging with all other beings and with the field of love itself. All right, which is really this whirlpool of love that's spewing out your thoughts and emotions, she said, and seeing the effect that has on all the other eddies and then drawing back in. She said, breathing is a bellows, okay? Just picture this in-breath and out-breath of all the thoughts and emotions, and all of it constantly changing your own light body, your sphere, your pattern. And anytime there's balance, then you really tap into the unmanifest, pure being like a magnet right there at the heart. And she went, zap, zowie, wowie. That's when I knew it was Brenda. So alignment, locking in, that's what love does. That's why you need balance. To me, the whole key of this is that locking in visual. I mean, it was just so cool to me. Okay, so here we have the pepper, here we have the salt, and this is my spiritual side that knows all is good. This is my human side that's all frustrated, but I've got to get them centered if I'm going to communicate as a medium. Boop. locked into the grid, perfectly balanced. It's a very nice analogy or visual that we can use. So think patterns of energy, energy flow, balancing the torus of the heart. That's why we want to be centered. All right. Da, 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 da. In what different ways do we become balanced and coherent? I talked already about one of the major ways, our human side with our soul awareness. But there's also our masculine and feminine energies. Personally, this has been a big thing for me in the last 3 to 6 months, is bringing in more of the female energies. So what this has resulted in for me, and I hope you'll take this on board for you, is much greater claircognizance as I embrace the female energies. We all have an equal balance of both in us, no matter what gender we are. We need to balance the two. The masculine is more of the active, doing part of us, thinking. The female energy is more of the birthing of ideas, the creativity side of us, the knowing side of us. Get those two balanced and click. You're coming into alignment again. What I was shown is the reason that as I've worked on bringing this in, that my claircognizance, my clear knowing, my sense of knowing when I connect with higher consciousness has increased, is because the seat of claircognizance is the crown chakra. Now imagine, this is where much of the energy is flowing in and out through the crown, connecting us with the spirit world. What is the color associated with the crown chakra? You're right, it's violet or purple. What makes up purple color? Blue and pink, blue and red. Blue being the boy, pink being the girl. It's just this really cool visual. And so my claircognizance had not been as good as it is lately, because I was so much more in the left brain and the doing and the active and the thinking. And as we're embracing now the creativity, the flowing and the knowing, we're now bringing both the masculine and the feminine energies into balance. Pretty cool, huh? Picture that magnet just locking it in there. So we have left and right hemispheres of our brain as well, very much along the same lines as the masculine and feminine. Are you very logical and analytical? Do you have to think through everything and use words? That's left brain. Right brain would be more creative, more flowing, conceptually simply know. That goes hand in hand with masculine and feminine. How about bringing into balance your physical and emotional bodies? So you can see why alignment is really key, why balance is key if you want to connect with higher consciousness. Where might you be out of balance? Now, that's right. This is cool. It's nice to teach this, but I'm going to give you a tool that I'm going to teach for the first time, and I wanted some of you who are going to be there to hear this for the first time there, but I'm going to do it with you here because it's just too good to hold on to right now. I want to share with you a practice that I just stumbled upon thanks to my new friend, Diane Hamilton, who was on my radio show recently. She is a Zen Buddhist teacher, and this came up in some of her work, and it's a practice. Pema Chodron is a Buddhist who teaches this a lot. It's a practice called Tonglen, and that's spelled Tonglen. And Tonglen is a Chinese word, and it stands for taking and receiving. Oh, sorry, got that wrong. It's the same thing. Taking and sending, like giving and receiving. Taking and sending. Can you see that these are polar opposites? Giving and receiving, taking and sending. Tonglen practice is a way to relieve our suffering and come into balance. when I let out the primal scream in the car and immediately followed that with laughter, that was a perfect example of using Tong Len, of finding something, experiencing fully a challenging vibration, and then matching it, sending out a non-challenging vibration. It's polar opposite. So the way Tong Len works is when you become aware of something in your life that's upsetting, you allow yourself to fully feel it and you breathe it in. Embrace that feeling completely, allowing yourself to feel. Does it feel heavy? Is it uncomfortable? Does it feel dark? As you're breathing in, you're breathing in. Let's say, for example, you're feeling anger at a partner. And so something they just said makes you feel angry. Instead of putting that aside or projecting it on somebody else, you breathe in the anger. On the spot, step aside and do the Tong Len practice. This is why it's beautiful. It's so practical. Breathe in the anger, but what would be the opposite of anger? Love and peace. So on the out breath, you breathe out the full experience of peace, perhaps forgiveness and love. It feels cool or perhaps warm, however that feels to you. It feels peaceful, and you're sending that out to the world. Picture this whirlpool of energy around you, the eddies. You're breathing in one very real emotion, the pepper, and you're breathing out the salt. And you just keep doing that until they completely balance. But see, all of these polarities exist only here at the level of form. It's underneath all of this is the underlying reality of all that is, the soup base that is unaffected by these emotions. So the peace is always there. You're not going to harm yourself by breathing in these energies. You're facing it and you're creating this beautiful energy of balance. It works not only on yourself, but say you're in a store and you see a mother hit her child and the child is crying and you really can't step into that moment. You can't do anything. Something stops you or it's not appropriate or they move away and you are left with this energy of pain and suffering for them. Do you know that by doing this Tong Len balancing practice, that energy goes out, and because you are becoming balanced, it's like locking into that other person's field and sending the energy to them. We have to know that our efforts affect others when we do this. So you would have witnessed something like that. And completely, in just a few moments, breathe in. As guides say, let's do it. So we will do it in a moment here. Breathe in the energy of the pain that that situation caused you. Feel the pain of the world as you breathe that in and wonder why people do that to each other. And then breathe out peace, knowing that that is always another possibility that arises from the field of all consciousness, all awareness. And then again, breathe it in and breathe out the opposite. And you just do this, and surely the slow breathing certainly helps you to become calm, but you are literally taking action to balance your field and sending that balanced energy out to the world. So we did it for ourselves, we did it for someone else. We can now do that for the world. You watch the news and you see some atrocious a war going on somewhere around the world or some terrorist act somewhere. How can I help? By doing this practice. Breathe in the pain of the world. Feel it completely, because you are the world at the underlying reality. And breathe out peace, cooperation, justice. Feel that. Breathe in the pain of the world and stay with that for about 2 to 3 minutes. I've been doing it lately and it's tremendous. So why don't we do it together now? Okay, we're all connected anyway. I'd like each of you to sit and just get in a nice comfortable position. Hopefully you are already. and close your eyes for a moment. I'd like you to picture yourself as a beautiful sphere of light, yet there's an opening at the top and the bottom of you, the main shaft that flows down and through you at all times. That's the shaft through which the life force flows. And right at the center of you is this node that connects you with all other creations that exist in the manifest world. And through that node, we are all connected as one with the source. But focusing now on our energetic field and knowing that it changes constantly as the ingredients flow in and out. And we can control that very much through our own desires. Bring to mind an issue that you've been dealing with that is challenging, that has some kind of a challenging vibration associated with it. And now, knowing you're always completely safe, the soul cannot be harmed and no harm will come to you from doing this action. Breathe in all of the emotions and feelings associated with that situation. Don't be afraid of it. You've been rolling around in it lately. Breathe it in. Feel it completely. Feel the emotions, the thoughts that stirs up. Allow yourself to know that's okay. And now what would be the opposite of that? As you exhale, just shift and be the opposite. Feel the lighter aspects of this now. Feel the release. You're not just exhaling, you're sending the energy out into the field of all that is. Raise in vibration all around you. And now let's breathe back in again. You can repeat the exact same experience you just had, breathing it in. It may not feel pleasant, but it cannot hurt you. Everything passes. Breathe it in, feel it, perhaps see a different aspect of it. And now exhale the opposite, knowing that in doing so, you're beautifully balancing that out. This world of polarities always has opposites. We don't have to get rid of it. We just balance it out, knowing that at the fundamental base reality, we are pure love and pure peace. But when we can balance them out, then that we bring that peace into our reality here. Breathe that situation back in again. Perhaps feel a different aspect of it. Still, it's still there. It's still challenging. Feel it. And now one more time, exhale its opposite. What you're doing is neutralizing the vibrations in your energy field. This is a miracle. You can come on back. You can do that anytime for any situation, anywhere. I hope you like that. I find it very powerful. I wish more people knew about it. It's a wonderful practice. We're so afraid to feel our lower challenging vibrations, okay? That central node, the heart, is the bridge. Remember, always there's an aspect of you that is unchanging, pure love. That's the field from which all of these polarities arise. We learn from these. We experience them and say, okay, that worked or that didn't work. But know that at the center, we tap into our true source. Okay. Wow. That was the whole breaching thing. I hope you enjoyed that. I'm trying to see if I should take a question or two. Yes, I might as well. Yeah, maybe somebody has a question about that or anything else. We have some time left. Why don't we do that? Okay. Pulling up my notes here. Have anybody, Bev?
Let's see. Nicolette Kloppers, good question. Let me find you here.
Oh, there's a good one.
Nicolette is coming in.
Okay, great.
There she is, and
Hey, great.
unmuted.
Hello.
Okay.
Hi, Nicolette. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Where are you joining us from?
Oh, Dalby, Australia.
Oh my goodness, what time is it there?
Almost 12 o'clock, 12 noon.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
good day.
Yeah. No, so I'm very happy because I'm a teacher and I'm usually at school at this time, so I can never do any of the webinars or
Oh, okay.
things like that because of the time difference.
Oh, well,
So
glad you're
yeah,
here.
feel very lucky today.
Great. Do you have a question?
Yes, my question was related to generational patterns. How do we overcome generational history, like for example, suicide, depression, etc.? Because I do believe that we can change our pattern and help our family in that way.
Wow.
But I'm unsure of how to do it because there's been a lot of all that in my family. And I feel that, you know, I can and I have to change something.
It is an excellent question. And
Yes.
I'm hearing so clearly that this is like a setup because you were just given a beautiful tool for doing that. Just you neutralize that situation. You don't have to overcome it by now being, you know, Pollyanna and bright light to counterbalance it. Just acknowledge that that's in the field and balance it with your love. There is no time at the soul level. You can send love to those who lived in the so-called past and to those that are here now, and just breathe in and breathe out their energetic fields as well. This really sounds very metaphysical and airy-fairy, but I'm being shown that it really, at an energetic level, makes a huge difference. And that if we believe that we're trapped in these patterns, that we don't understand that all is in flow, in flux all the time, and that this spiral, we don't get stuck at one level. We're constantly moving upward. So you take this history, you learn from it, and you send healing energy to it now. And you know that by knowing what you know, that you are this living, breathing organism arising from the source that can learn from that and grow from that, you actually make a difference. So you could do this Tonglen practice just as one example frequently to breathe in the pain of the generations and the history of the family, and breathe out pure love and balance and new life. And just do that as a daily practice and know that that turns up the light all around.
What about forgiveness? Forgiving someone who's committed or has completed suicide. Are we able to forgive the people? Does it make a difference if we can forgive them?
Were you here at the very beginning when we answered the question about forgiveness?
I don't know. No, maybe not.
Okay, so go back to the beginning of this video when you get it. We discussed that, and it was about self-forgiveness, but it works equally as well for others. Forgiveness is forgiveness, and it comes from the soul level, seeing beyond the human stories. Okay? It was good.
Okay.
Thank you. You're so welcome. Thank you. All right, Bev, I'm going to, I just want to share one little story, and then we'll probably wrap it up here, okay? All righty. I just want to share something funny that happened to me last month. I was sitting in a new doctor's office, and we were trying to determine how long it had been since I visited another doctor. And suddenly this brand new doctor, first time in her office, shouts really loud. She says, "Alexa, how many weeks has it been since November 14th? And I was shocked because there's nobody else in the room, of course. And the speaker goes, "It has been 14 weeks since November 14th, or whatever it was." And I was like, okay, that's technology, isn't it? And and I got the coolest insights about Siri and Alexa. My mind is constantly thinking, how do we explain this connection with the spirit world in a way that helps our lives here? And you know, the reason Siri and Alexa, I'm assuming all of you know what that is. You know, you can ask a question of technology and it gives you your answer. The reason those work is because our words carry information. Our words are frequencies. And this is just a piece of machinery that takes a frequency of sound, and every sound represents a word. Well, this is what is happening in mediumship and in telepathy. And when you know who's about to call you and the phone rings, you're picking up a frequency that has information encoded in the frequency. The information is the frequency. The frequency is the information. That's it. So the thing is, Siri and Alexa don't give meaning to that information like we humans do. Of course, they're not, of course, they're not human, not creations. But what makes the difference between Siri and Alexa and us, between artificial intelligence and us? It's the soul. It's the soul. That's the whole difference. We are the manifestations of this field of pure awareness that is intelligent, that is creative, that is your source. So this information bubbles up as the source breathes out, becomes you. You have your experiences, and on the creation's in-breath, going back in, the information that you've gathered through your forgiveness and through your judgments and through your mistakes and through your successes, that information comes back in. Siri just exchanges information. We give it meaning. It's really funny how I know that telepathy is real. It's been a long time since I shared this example, but I remember pulling up behind a Mustang at a traffic light and saying to Ty, hey, remember when I had that Mustang? I used to have that white one back when I worked in the Pentagon. I sold that to Petty Officer Smith. That was years ago. I wonder how she's doing. And the very next day, I get an email from Petty Officer Smith, who hasn't communicated with me in, 7, 8 years. So you can see what happened. This radiation that radiated out from my awareness that said Petty Officer Smith was picked up by her energy field. I sent out on the out-breath. That's a metaphor. It's not actually breathing. It's consciousness going outward. Petty Officer Smith, her field brought that in through her torus shape into her awareness. And this mind that connects us all made a match. Commander Giesemann, her email to me says, Commander Giesemann, I thought about you yesterday, so I went on Facebook to see what you're up to. She says, boy, has your life changed. She wasn't aware about all the mediumship and all of that. But I just love knowing that that's how we connect with each other, this in-breath and out-breath of information encoded in the frequency. So you want to connect with your loved ones? It's like saying, hey, Siri, hey, Alexa, how long's it been since, oh my God. This is like, Siri says that's like comparing apples and not apples. So she heard me call her. See, that went out from me as a sound wave and Siri picked it up. But I'm serious. When you want to connect across the veil with your guides, with your loved ones, with the angels, with the source itself, you are this field of that is constantly exchanging waves of information. You arise from this pure stillness to become this undulating field full of information. So you want to connect, become centered, become balanced, be the presence of love. That's why these are perfect examples. I love my babies. And the connection will become all that much clearer. It's all about love. I have to give the message at Unity Village Chapel after the retreat this weekend, and my sermon is called, What's Love Got to Do with It? The answer is everything. Okay? Thank you all so much for joining me this evening. It's always a pleasure. We are going to bring everybody who wants to be seen online here, and you can all wave at each other. We can smile and just share the love that we've been sharing for the last couple of hours. I love you all, and I hope to see you next month or see you here this weekend or somewhere around the country. The tour is in full swing, and it's just wonderful. All right. Thank you. Bev?